The Big Issue. Breaking down the issues that matter.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Leadership Podcast. We're on to another edition of The Big Issue. As usual, I'm your regular host. George Agba is my name. And with me here are our very vibrant in-house analysts, Silas Eze Ubu and Chibuzo Kaibe. Well, the big issue for the day is the 20% increment of police salary and the issues at stake. The Federal Executive Council last week at its weekly meeting approved 20% salary increase for the police with effect from January 1, 2022. And of course, most Nigerians say it is commendable. But the problem is, that it is a mere drop in the ocean. On its own, they say it only scratches the surface in addressing the plight of the average policeman, especially the lowest cadre, which do the grunt work of maintaining law and order in the country. And of course, the argument is that it will not stop them from taking their frustration on members of the public. And of course, the federal government said it did the increment in line with the promise President Muhammadu Buhari promised the NSAS protesters last year, and he will address the welfare of police officers. So the question on the big issue now is, does the 20% increment address the issue of police welfare? Silas, of course, we've been talking of salary increment. And of course, the president, in his own wisdom, to the best of his own ability, decided to increase the salaries of police by 20%. Most Nigerians are saying that's not enough. See it as a drop in the ocean. Do you think that 20% will go anywhere to address the welfare of police officers?
Obviously not. I don't think to me it's just tokenism. Probably, local balance that they could even make more. So if you praise a big man, what has done, do more. Okay, that's a song like that. So maybe those who are praising the president are praising him that they did something, at least he did something. Maybe to now decide to do more. And if this is a total response to the NSAS protest, it will stank him, but it's not enough. It's not going to change a lot of things for the police. Come to think of it, since the entire protest last year to now, the inflationary rate in Nigeria has more than tripled this 20%. Because of everything has tripled and quadrupled. So this one will just be a kind of a drop, the ocean for police. And then and beyond the issue of just increment, to reform the police needs a lot of structural, work in the police, ranging from recruitment process, the kind of people targeted, the training that undergo, the budgeting system, how the money for operations trickle down to the last person. This idea of telling policemen to go to the road and give them a vehicle and they don't give them fuel, they now ask them to give them a gun and take it from the road to fuel their car. And yet there are budgeting provisions for the police. On top of this, what's the police budget? How much did they ask for? How much was given to them? We need to look at what all the other countries are doing about the police to know even the equipment, the equipping of the police, their use of technology. We are talking about 20%. 20% will not change anything. I can say for certain that the level of police brutality has reduced since the Nigerians went to the streets during the end protest. They dismembered, dismantled the SARS group that was almost around my job. But routinely exploiting, extorting, and even killing people at will. It doesn't mean that there are still no excesses. But the magnitude of what was going on seemed to have less again. But you cannot go to prison and come back without feeling that this police this got more work to do. 20% increase will not change that.
Well, Chibuzon, you heard this. You can see, one of the thinking by Nigerians is that this 20% increment of salary will not address dilapidated state of police barracks. And of course, the fact that the police officers sold their own uniforms, unlike when they are supposed to be given those uniforms by the force. Police officers, those uniforms, you see them where they just specify, so go so they use their own. And at the end of the day, just a mere increment of their salary by 20%. One would have said, oh, they have done police a great service. Because Nigerians don't think so. What is your take on the fact that despite that increment, a lot still needs to be done in restructuring police for proper policing system in the country?
I think your your last comment sums it up quite nicely. The lost thing is to be done, obviously. And I want to believe that even the president and the framers of this whole concept uh, know that a lot still needs to be done. The Nigerian police has, even through the military years, since the military got into political governance, um, the first child, apart from the judiciary and no the legislature rather, and some other um, institutions that naturally had to suffer. First line of security security agency that felt the heat was the police. Because of course the police and the military find it difficult to function in the military system of government because of perhaps chain of command and how they are um, decide to function. The military say whereas the police functions in a democratic setting. The beauty of the police is in the democratic setting, not to be in a democratic setting. So when you have the military take over like that, the first grouping child naturally, apart from in the military in the security architecture, will be the police. And to a large extent, I think that has affected the welfare of police, and not just the welfare now, even the psychology of the police system in Nigeria, the policing system in Nigeria. And then when you have all the structural problems of whether we should have a central police, we have a state police, you have all of that argument and all of those structural problems have also contributed to making the police over the years become less potent. So even the psychological makeup of the force, the police force too, was terribly affected. So the damage has been, deep, and it's been a long one, a quite long one. So it will require not just massive funding to get the police back, a lot of readjustments, restructuring, programming, to get them back to that level where you can say, okay, this is the police force that we want to have. But it's not just about throwing money at them. You can throw money at them, but if their behavior and their behavioral patterns still remain the same, like the back when we are. So I think they would know that what they have done is just a drop in the ocean. However, I think it is commendable anyway that they have decided to do this. We all know the economic situation of the country and the fact that whatever has been done now might just be, um, you know, not so significant, but at least it will go some distance to ensure that you know
At least,
And coming at this period in time, it would help to address immediate needs. But of course, like uh, we all agree, there's a whole lot more to be done.
well, Chibuzo, you said it's something that's commendable because at the end of the day, for a very long time, this has not happened. But the fact that it is long coming, it's enough to even say, at least for this government to remember that they're supposed to increase police salary. But we would like to take a short break, and by the time we come back, we will now look at the figure in comparison with the lowest cadre of police officer, that is Constable Chu, what he collects, and what the 20% amounts to. Don't go offline, we'll be back in a moment. And as we go, we expect that by the time we come back, you are viewer will begin to send in your comments to help shape the conversation on the big issue. We'll be back in a moment.
For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.
The Big Issue. Breaking down the issues that matter.
Welcome back. We are still on the big issue in leadership podcast. And of course, the big issue of the day is 20% increment of police salary. And the issue at stake. Silence Chibuzo said, no matter how it is, at least we should commend the move by the federal government before we think of saying that it is just a mere drop in the ocean. No, the argument for those who think that it is not enough, that the currently the lowest ranked police officer, Constable Chu, earns 41,496. Yes.
That's approximately 50,000.
41,000.
41.
41,496,000. Then 20% of that now, that 20% increase, brings the figure to just 51,000 and that's a little above 51,000. So you can imagine what that amounts to. It's just an additional attache to just. So that is a point of the argument. That alone will not even address the wealth of police officers.
Yeah, officially, the official standards, it's not, you say, normal person should have to have 4 kids. That's what Nigerian presupposes, okay? Now divide up 21,000 naira and cost a family of 6, now wife and 4 kids. That's about dependence, the aged mother. Because if you're working in Nigeria, you're not just working as family, you have other hangers on. Those are training here, interviews and cook who are not onto any work, who depend on you. So even if you just he and his English family, but the way things are in the market now, you cannot even pay school fees for one child. How much is the school fee? Even in public schools. So our schools are not. In the private schools that are by the street corner. In kindergarten, in the school near to where we live, just a street corner school, you can kindergarten there pay up to 50,000. That's more than this month's salary for the whole month. Not about feeding kids, housing, and feeding, healthcare, and all transport, pay for power, for water, all the utilities. If you see, the devil is in details. you break it down, you find that um, it's even some gate men somewhere and more than that.
Of course.
These
And
are
some of those
these
gate
are
men at the gates there, they have houses they pay for them. They have a house where they
where they
stay.
say,
But now you see that the barracks, the police barracks are in a dilapidated state. The police officers don't even stay in the barracks. Most of them stay in rented apartments.
so if you look at it, break it down that way, and then when you look at the kind of funding that are available to political office holders, you know, the kind of money they allocate for themselves, allocate to themselves.
And they all go to the same
And
market.
they all go to the same market. The cost of a tuber of yam is same thing for the big man and for the small man. If you go to buy, the seller will not look at it and say, because you're this man, then we sell it 5 naira. And because you're a big man, you know, the market is the market. So, um, honestly, it's so sad. And not just police alone. Nigerian workers are generally not well paid. If you look at that figure I'm talking about, compare it to, can you break it down to dollar? You find that an average person is living below the poverty line of $2 a day. By the time you calculate the whole family expense and the market with dollar, you find out that already you have condemned the person to life of poverty, and you have given him a gun, and training, and some instrument of force. And then when you have people who can come into that darknet, they are going to help themselves one way or the other.
Of course.
Because he will not stay there and his family is hungry and he will start following holy. He will not do that.
Yes, I
So
agree.
so just pray that you do not get into problem with the police, because however much the person wants to be straightforward. By the time your children are crying at home, they can't go to school. And you will force to do some want to try to make up the difference. And then that's why it's necessary that those who are making these policies should actually look at the situation critically and see what can be done. 3% is, thank God for that, but it's not going to do much for especially lower cadre. And another thing that they have not looked at in this issue is that, you know, you say if it's 20% across board, some of them who already are higher cadre, who already paid something that is reasonable, you still give them 20%. You see the same thing to those who are
And that increment will be even be more. The one they will get as increment will
yeah,
even be
so
more than
normally
this.
in public sector, what they do is that they do a kind of, you know, reduction from top to low. Those at the top may get 5%, those in the middle will get 10%, those at the lower rungs get 20%, so that you close the what the gap they pay. But here they just said 20% across board. The senior officers will try it more because
The pay is big.
and whatever to add to them can take care of themselves. But those who are lower rung, they just be like just from ground to move here, they are still on the ground.
Well, thank you, Silas, because another issue, looking at it critically, is that to stop policemen from mounting checkpoints and extorting money from motorists and other instances in Nigeria, the thinking by Nigerians is that at least their salaries, especially the ones who are actually there doing the policing properly, their salaries would have been increased at least by 80%. And of course, Nigerians think the 20% is not enough.
It's 100%.
Yes, to discourage officers from corruption, collecting of bribes. And of course, you see what they do on the road. You say the police brutality it has reduced, so it has not. If you go along the road, especially some of these satellite towns like Kenya, if you see the road block now, they extort money from Okada. Rest. Every Okada that will pass through a particular checkpoint must drop 50 naira to the policeman. There's a vehicle for there's a space for vehicles and then they created one for Okada. As when they come to drop their passengers and start rolling with their legs, they pay that particular amount. This continue on a daily basis. That's the idea. So now if you just like Chibuzo rightly say, I think he has a point. When you say or when you say if you are supposed to increase that salary, there is a kind of estimation you would have done to ensure that the ones on the lower cadre at least you get a higher percentage than the officers themselves, because the other ranks are the people we are talking about here. What is the salary for a police officer from the rank of inspector, ASP? And somebody told me, it's just that it has not come to my head. I will still.
It's over 100.
Eh?
It's maybe 100, 150.
It's almost above 100.
No, maybe 150 or thereabouts. Let me not tell. But when you compare it with civil defense and co, that region, 150, that's category.
That category.
So you can see that that's like 4 times more than the person at the contemporary level.
This is what you said, the government decision, action. It's reasonable. Look at it within this line of thought. It's commendable, sorry.
It's commendable.
Sorry.
I said it's commendable.
It's a slip of tongue on my part.
Now, like whether it should be increased to 80% or 100% to make that view.
Yes. By the time you do that, they will feel
fulfilled. Something tangible for them.
It's neither here nor there. It is a difficult assumption to make that if they increase their salary, it will stop them from
to reduce their
aggressiveness. At the end of the day, who deploy them to do those things? They don't just wake up and do those things on their own. I mean, the rank and file here. They don't just wake up and go stand on the road and whatever. There are stories about how they go through that and bring returns, to their bosses. Those bosses, I can tell you, most of them, 95% of them, probably live above their means. So how do they make extra income? You understand? So, but they still encourage their subordinates to go do this. And perhaps this is the weighty allegation I'm making anyway. The allegation I'm making, and I'm not the originator of it. It's something that has
been saying.
Yes,
you are only saying what has been speculation. So it has been in the public domain.
So this when we see, we recently had the case of the SARS with the
NSAS.
That one that lives a Porsche Life, the super couple.
Okay.
And the Porsche Life,
they carry.
How come he lives that kind of puppy?
The one that was linked to Porsche puppy.
Yes, and
building mansion.
He's a policeman. How come he was able to acquire? So it fits into that narrative that the people in the force themselves already, most of them live above their means. So whether or not you increase salary or not, it is difficult to tell whether it will stop collection of roadblock, the roadblock data. I totally don't think it might, because it has become more of an attitude thing.
Don't forget that apart from the collective, the explosion on the road, what we are saying should also aid and abet crime. Because at the end of the day, some of these kidnappers have been linked to police. That police
Of course.
And that's good.
Yeah.
So you can see that it's not just about payment of salary. That's what I'm coming
from. Some of them said that response.
Yeah, I think the challenge is one, we should begin to. There's even the problem of sustainability. Can they sustain this in a shrinking economy? If the economy continues to shrink the way it's going, even the 20% we are talking about, is it sustainable? That's one. Two, at a time where oil, the mainstay, has been given a lifespan on which to become less viable. What options do we have to tackle the gas, revenue gas? The economy, global economy, is still trying to reboot from the COVID thing. So how long is that going to take? So I think we should begin to rethink this whole process of, now it's not just the police force alone, all of our critical institutions. There has to be a thinking, and that is why when people make the case for structuring, it gives a broader view as to the challenge we face. Should we now begin to relook or rethink national police, federal policing, and begin to look inwards with regards to state policing, particularly as it has to do with funding.
Police at the federal level now. You see how it is, and you now say state police. In some states, those policemen will not get salary for it.
No, but the thing is, it therefore means we have to begin to rethink our revenue system, our economic
It's a
system.
whole, see,
It's a whole gallop thing.
It
There's
has
no,
all
you
of
can't
it.
you can't take one out of the other. So that's where I think the challenge really is. It's not about this piecemeal thing. No, there's a big picture to address. Do we still continue federal police in light of these economic challenges, or do we go state police way? In my state, if I'm a governor in my state, I know okay, this thing, police I'm going to deal with. Then I have to give the kind of revenue I think I can have to meet that demand. So I must not pay what other states are paying. Yes, we are in a one economic status, but I must not pay what the other government is paying as long as I provide the basic facilities. So it's because if some of the basic facilities are there, you will not have the policeman pinching unnecessarily from the little he gets to service some of those things. So these are
Like showing
the
up
chain
uniform
problems.
and the rest.
Yeah, so those are the problems that are on ground. This
Yeah, well.
issue, like I said, it's commendable. It's going to get them from point A to point B within but there is a bigger question around whether we should start thinking the way the police are set.
Thank you very much, Iluso. I think that is the more we can take for today's edition of the big issue. Of course, we thank our viewers for keeping tab with us out there. And of course, our in-house analysts, Silas and Chibuzo, for addressing the big issue the way it is. Join us same time tomorrow for another edition of the big issue. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.